Hello everyone, welcome to a new game that I played on Lichess against the Lichess bot level 7. Level 7 is around 2200 of elo, and so this is a very strong opponent for me. This is a machine, so obviously the machine plays moves that are already installed in the database, and the game can become quite annoying sometimes because the engine tries to play non-human moves, so maybe he can play strange move that basically doesn't make sense, but he follows some patterns that the computer has installed. But let's go into the game. I play with white against black. I play e4. The computer replies with e6, so basically the French defense. Knight to f3, pawn d5, so try to strikes to in the center with the pawn on d5. I take, and now the computer plays a strange move, bishop to e7. So basically this is a move that helps the computer to develop the piece, but obviously at the cost of one pawn, because now I take back on e6. Basically I take on d5, then I take on e6, so I gain one pawn, but the computer can develop the bishop on e6, so basically now it has two bishops develop. Pawn d4, and the computer strikes back again with c5, so basically he wants to destroy my center. I play a3 to prevent that the computer can have a check with this bishop on b4 if the computer took back on d4. Now the computer plays c6, knight to c6 instead, but now I make not a mistake in accuracy, because now the computer can play queen takes on d1, develop the knight, and after I take on e1, the computer can play knight to g4, so basically threatening to fork my king and rook once he plays this, and this is very annoying. I should have thought more about this move, but anyway, the game is still on, is still even. So now the computer takes on e1. I take back, obviously, because I don't want to lose the queen, but I'm obliged to take on e1. And now the computer plays the move that I said before, knight to c6. I play a development move, so I develop the knight on c3. And now the computer plays g4. This is an accuracy because according to the engine, you should have played immediately bishop takes on c5, because now I could play, for example, e1, so to protect the pawn and to prevent the fork. Now the computer plays bishop takes on c5, but I have this move now that I could play in order to protect everything, but instead they played knight to d1, so maybe I was aiming to remaneuver the knight on d3, and instead I played the knight on d1, so this is a mistake. This is an accuracy. I mean, not a mistake, an accuracy. So now the computer plays rook to c8, and I play bishop to e3 to exchange everything. The computer prevents the exchange and remaneuver the bishop to d6. I develop my bishop that was on f1 to d3, and the knight is remaneuvered to e5 to exchange everything, to gain space in the center with all these pieces. I take on e5. I played c3, pawn c3 to name the bishop on e5. I played b4 to gain some space in the center, but this pawn can be weak in the future. Castle and knight to b2, knight to e7, and I played this good move. So basically now I have the bishops slicing all these parts of the chessboard. So I play bishop to e3, basically to prevent the exchange of the knight for my bishop. Bishop to e5 from black to attack my pawn on c3, that now is not defended because the knight moved from d1 to b2. So I protect the pawn with rook to c1, and now the basically the knight takes on a1 on b4. Sorry, I take back to exchange everything. So now the knight, the bishop takes my knight on b2. I take the rook on c8. This is everything drawish position. So I move the king to e2. Now the bishop is fully operational because basically I can attack my pawn on g2. Pawn to f3. The bishop takes on a3. I take on a7. The bishop can take on b4. So now the computer has one more pawn, but it's not enough to win the game, because now I can play rook to b1. The bishop goes back to e7. I try to exchange the bishop. So now bishop to c4 check. Okay, I'm seeking this exchange, and now the position is completely drawish. So now I take the pawn on b7. The computer doesn't even try to protect the pawn on b7. And this is completely drawish. So move. Okay. Attacks my bishop on a7. So now I try to compact everything. I attack the bishop on d6. Okay, I try to exchange the rook. I move the okay, I change the bishop. Now we have 3 pawns against 3 pawns, 1 rook against 1 rook. Okay, this is the end game, but it's completely equal. I mean, you can further advance with the position. So we exchange pawn. No mistakes from both parts. And now this is a stalemate, because basically I cannot win the game from now. That's it. I hope you enjoyed. Bye.